So for this piece, the premiere was at a very special occasion, Now and After. Can you tell me about the occasion?
It was written for the 150th anniversary of the Royal Danish Academy of Music. I'm teaching composition in this institution, so it was a natural thing that I should kind of write a new big piece for this concert. And it was for the resources of Music Academy, which means soloists and choir and large orchestra. So that's resources, and a relatively long piece, half an hour, for this really feast of a concert.
And not only was it written for this special occasion, this jubilee for the Royal Academy of Music, but also you connected it with a very iconic piece of music by Charles Ives. Can you tell me about it and why you did it?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you hear concerts where you have a kind of overture or introduction, and then it leads to a symphonic or another work. And if it's well chosen, it works so well that you don't have interruptions, and there's a mutual light from one piece to the other. So I wanted to kind of do this in one way, and I chose the most famous work maybe of Charles Ives, The Unanswered Question. For this occasion, we have the trumpet call answered by the flutes, and the beautiful chorale kind of representing eternity behind this.
So how do you use that music in your work, which comes right after and which is called Now and After?
It's for this occasion, a celebration of 150 years. Normally you will look back, and the piece is now and after. Mm-hmm. And the way I feel it in Charles Ives, eternity is present in the music of Charles Ives. We have the question, the unchanged question, asked in eternity, and there'll be the flutes desperately answering, but there's no answer. So we are prepared to think about time, and then we arrive at the present and looking at the present and forward. So that's the idea of the reference to Charles Ives and the title Now and After, since we are already looking back at this celebration.
And as you said, your piece, there are singers in the piece. That's not the case with the Charles Ives. So that's an addition you have made to use all the resources that the Royal Academy kind of inhabits. But singers need texts. Which texts did you choose for the piece?
I chose a text by the Danish young artist Theis Ørntoft. It's from a volume called Poems. It was published a couple of years ago. And in these texts, I find a number of things that's so interesting, and you'll say, well, they are violent and poetic and kind of dealing about future apocalyptic visions and stuff like this. But time is very present in these poems. So with a reference to time, to Charles Ives, and what he mentions, one line is 1 second is as a millennium. So there's this perspective to eternity and time which goes so well with the idea of Charles Ives and making time a theme of the total of the composition.
But how do you use these texts in the work? What do they generate? Movements, or how do you use them?
I made a selection from the later parts of this volume, and I have chosen very poetic moments, and this will be for the soloists, especially the high soprano part. And then there are kind of elements putting things in the distance or looking outside. It's for the chorus. And then there's a very violent passage, and there I make a cut and have a kind of speaker, which is a kind of rap with orchestra accompaniment, which is violent and totally in contrast to the rest of the piece. So there'll be a long middle section where you move totally the perspective and the style of the music. And then we come back to the poetic part in the end.
What about the ending of the piece? I'm curious to know about, do you kind of wrap up the Child's Ives and your work, or do you kind of just...
Yeah. Well, it's of course for the listener to experience, but I wrap up with the Child's Ives, and a lot of things happens, and Child's Ives is present here and there. You get the chords, you get references, and you get the trumpet call in the end, but in a new harmonic setting, which kind of, for me at least, and for the listener I hope, kind of turned the perspective a little bit.
Nogle planer for aftenen, Thijs? Robin spiller koncert ved kanalen. Engang var diktatoren et menneske af kød og blod. Nu er de tider forbi. Nu er de blæst til atomer. Og nu ligger jeg et sted blandt de atomer og ser mine tænder svæve ud af munden som en rumfærges besætningsmedlemmer. Nu trækker jeg vejret og holder det inde, som om det var mit. Jeg er en snylter på en blå planet. En tynd hinde mellem cirkus og massegrav. Jeg er en fatsvag gong. Slå på mig! Slå mig til ridder af de vestlige regioner. Verden har brug for en samlende kraft. Kør mig rundt i en natblå Audi og lad mig vinke ud til befolkningen. Lad mig synge min smukke sang for dem. Elsk mig for mine nødvendige nedskæringer. Gang i julen igen. Elsk mig. Elsk mig for at fjerne Isaac Newton. Barndom. Og anlægge en kulmine i stedet ud af vis porte. De næste dinosaurer løber. Jeg vågner op i en tilfældig morgen, og der, ude for enden af dagens første blodprop-nøje, ligger kontinenterne og lyser. Jeg vil derud. Jeg vil ud og finde livgivende føde ned i halsen med mad og produkter, så jeg kan spire som æggestokke. Ud gennem kødet og op gennem stratosfæren. Vis mig den natur, der ikke har krig som skabende princip, og kom til mig, når du har fundet den. Hilsen designerværv med skudhul i panden. Hilsen omvandrende begær med hud og hår. Gør plads for mine vandskabte bevægelser. Kør rendegraverne ind og ryd en lysning. Ryd forsiderne for breaking news. For ved du hvad? Jeg balancerer på rette sammenbrud. Jeg balancerer hen over dagene på en tråd af uld. Spundet af røven på æderkop. Spundet af røven på Urban 1333. Aftenen endte alligevel med russisk roulette på trægulvet. Nu ligger folk og bløder i det tefarvede vand. Dagen er forbi, og himlen brænder. Nu bliver mørke og medicin spændt ud over mig. Spændt fast i solen. Nu skal de svejse på min ryggrad, så ambulancerne kører galt i en regn af gnister. Nu skal de flyve deres små droner gennem mine øregange. Jeg er paranoia, lysende til alle sider. Jeg er vækst, forklædt som kød. Først kravlede hen over en barndomsgulve, så voksede højt op blandt årene, så ankomst til pikspil. Små pikspil på gennemsigtig plastik, så skudt i panden og vakuumpakken. Så bed din bøn for. Og kastet i havet. Fra helikopteren. Solen lyser, smukke rumvæsener på gaden. Springvand på pladserne, svedige håndflader på en klode. Der ikke er anderledes dømt end altid. På græsplænen et sted, mine lukkede øjne op mod solen, som om jeg befinder mig på indersiden af en farve. Forældrene, der visker, at jeg er uønsket. Deres glødende øjne, deres grønne hud. Jeg var inde i sump og bark. Jeg var inde og skabe barndom og gæring. Så slettet fra verden af et pludseligt vindsved. Så overført til den næste fabrik. Ældre nu. Nat nu. 1000 uler letter. Og spreder sig til alle sider. Som kraft i et ord.
Robin spiller koncert ved kanalen. 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 Robin spiller koncert ved kanalen.